Good evening, welcome everybody. It is approximately 7:09 Eastern Standard Time on this side of the world. And my name is Ronald Setut. I am a member of the Georgia Haitian American Chamber of Commerce. I serve as the chair, and I am the co-founder of the Bell Initiative. And we are excited to do this every month, of course, in partnership with brandpill. And we have a very special topic today, which is the introduction to the lean canvas. And for those of you who know Bell or the fellows, and maybe some of you who actually don't know, the foundation or a really big part of Bell Initiative is the lean startup methodology. So you are really getting a taste of what we kind of teach the fellows. This is not new knowledge. This is stuff you can actually go out and learn, but it's not something that's widely shared with a lot of people, especially in our community. So super excited to be sharing this today because we really believe that this is a really good thing for startups, for projects, even businesses that are seasoned. I think you can use this in a way that's really going to be helpful. So super excited about this topic today. And of course, I had to bring my partner in crime to actually make this happen. None other than Dr. Edwin Magloire. Edwin, of course, is one of Haiti's rising leaders. I like to say that at least, but I really think he is. And I think most people who know him will tend to agree with that. He is a 2019 fellow. Edwin is a medical doctor and also a marketing and branding specialist. Who knows? That's great, right? I'll let you guys talk. Maybe he'll tell you the story if he has time today, but if not, you have to call him or join program to find that out. All right. He is also the founder and CEO of brandpill and has worked on some of the largest brands in Haiti. So he has a lot of experience and knows what he's talking about when it comes to branding and marketing. And of course, now Edwin can say he's officially international. He's big time now. So I don't know, he might not have time for us small folks anymore, but I'm glad that he's here today. He made a little time for us. And if you don't know, furthermore, he is the man behind the rebranding of the Bell Initiative. So in 2017, 2018, if you saw Bell and you saw our logo and our branding and our pictures, you can actually even scroll through our timeline and look at our branding. You can see it's very different. We have a very big facelift from what we had. And he's responsible for a lot of our branding that we have today. So ladies and gentlemen, give a virtual round of applause for none other than Dr. Edwin Magloire, who's going to be helping us present today with this.
Thank you, Ron.
Virtual. So Edwin, introduce yourself, man. Say a little bit about yourself and what we're talking about today.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for this warm introduction. I always say whenever I'm talking on the GACI or the Bell Initiative platform, it's as if I was talking on the brandpill platform, because you guys not only saw my inception, but we work so closely together that at the end of the day, like you said, partners in crime. So thank you for this opportunity. And I think you said a lot of important things. As you know, I care a lot about Haiti, and I think this whole brandpill pro group thing, this whole education side that I added to brandpill, because brandpill is just a branding marketing firm, but I always thought that the education side of things is what's gonna really help things get a little bit better, because, you know, entrepreneurship, you know, people tend to, you know, we like to take risks and etc. But I do believe that strategy goes a long way, planning goes a long way, and a lot of people like to improvise. But for example, if I want to remove a nail, there's this tool that has been created that it's called a hammer, and I'd rather use the hammer. So in business, there's also a lot of tools that have been proven over and over again that are being used by the big strategic firms like McKinsey and everything that, you know, entrepreneurs in Haiti could use to really create that impact. Actually, entrepreneurs are all around the world, but especially us, since we're so limited. And that's why I'm in love with the lean methodology, because we don't have a choice but to be lean here, right? So that's why I made it my mission to teach as many entrepreneurs as possible And that's why I like to mention the fact that the pro group is paid, is a paid membership. But at the same time, if for any reason that I'm not even going to ask you, you cannot afford to pay the membership, you can still write us. You can still WhatsApp me directly. You can still go on the website and send an email to request to join the pro group. And I do my best to find sponsors for the members. So in other words, it is about you said I'm big now and I probably want to have time for the small folks, but this is about the small folks. So yeah, I think that's about it. But I probably will talk about brandpill a little bit when I go directly in the presentation. So let me know when I can share my screen. But other than that, I'm going to stop here.
Okay. And for those of you who don't know what pro group is, I don't know if we have any new people in here, but just in case, and those who are watching live on Facebook, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And if you don't know what pro group is, it's because, well, it's not public. So we do this every Thursday in private. It's a secret meeting, but we come out once a month to the world. Or we try to come out once a month to the world and share the knowledge because we do know how important it is. But pro group is something that we can take part of, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. So stick around, and if you can't stick around to the end, definitely shoot us an email or drop your email in here, and we will send some information to you. Or you can email us info@bellinitiative.com, or
you can just go to brandpill.net and
there you go. All right, so let me give you.
Allow me to share my screen, please, Ronald.
I think about it, Think about this. All right, access granted.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So I was gonna say as per usual. I always forget how exclusive we get. So as soon as we start, we can, if you have questions on the slides, of course, you can like raise your hand so that I can stop and slow down a little bit for you guys. But at the same time, if you have questions, you can just write them down in the comment, in the chat, or after the presentation, there's always a Q&A where we take the questions. So don't worry about that part. So I'm just gonna minimize this a little bit to see myself. And here we go. So as Ronald said, brandpill is a creative agency. We focus on creating and managing brands. And you know what makes us special is that strategy that I was talking about and that education. So it's not just about creating a logo. It's not about creating a flyer. It's about why are we creating the logo like this? Why are we creating the flyer like this? Why are we using those colors besides just aesthetics, right? And our focus is to create like big brands, like, right? We want Haitian brands to become as competitive as the biggest brands in the world and on the local market, because you do know that a lot of imported stuff is what, you know, is getting the attention and the economy in Haiti. So we want the local products, the native natal products to become competitive locally. And then after they conquer the local market, pour que yo ka ale tout dans marché international yo, and then you entre en compétition normalement avec vos big brand yo. That's un résumé what we're about. Il paraît comme si je dis ça de manière nonchalante, mais c'est un bagage qui est assez difficile à faire, demander un peu d'expertise, demander un peu d'expérience avec le travail. But ça, c'est une mission que nous battons, no? And so far, we've had good results. So what services does brandpill offer is, besides consulting, the pro group is kind of like a group consulting, but we also do consultation, like one-on-one consultation. If you have a business problem, if you have a marketing problem, if you have a branding problem, you can call us. We figure it out. We help you diagnose the problem. We help you fix it jusqu'à la fin. We also do, of course, branding and visual identity, which is our brandpill logo department. We do packaging and label design, which is our impact department. And we also do digital marketing strategy and management, which is our DigiFit department. So, en gros, c'est ça. So why are we talking about the lean canvas today? The lean canvas is a tool, as I said. Mais éviter réinventer la roue le plus que possible. So Sonzuti, speaking of that, Ron, can you do a little survey and figure out, like, should I be talking in French more, Creole more, or English more? Because even though the slides are in English, I could still go Creole. Yeah. So like the Lean Canvas, is a tool that helps you document business model ideas. So in other words, when you have an idea, when you have a business, when you want to launch a business, you start by an idea, but it could go all over the place. But the Lean Canvas, like, is, it's divided in certain quadrants, and it helps you figure out, okay, how do I turn this into a document that can be presented to people? That's why it helps facilitate teamwork, because the whole team can be working on one canvas at the same time, right? And everybody can see the progress. It also helps convince potential investors and partners, because the Lean Canvas is, in fact, a mini business plan. I know a lot of people know that whenever you're going to launch a business, you're going to need a business plan. And sometimes they're 20, 30 pages. Sometimes it's tedious. Sometimes you feel like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Well, the Lean Canvas can serve as a one-page business plan, and that's one of its advantages. It forces you also to focus. Instead of going like, how are we going to operate? How are we going to find key partnerships? How are we going to find key resources? You have to focus on the client, the problem that they have, and the solution that you're going to, like, offer them, right? So because it's so succinct, it's so precise, it's so concise, it's so focused, it helps identify the strengths of your ideas, but also the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats, and the risks. So in other words, the Lean Canvas is a very important tool for any entrepreneur who are launching an idea, but also a business qui existe déjà. And then it's really important. Maybe you're going to launch a new product. Maybe you're going to try a new department. You can use the Lean Canvas to gather your thoughts together and see how viable and how profitable your project is going to be. So at the end of this presentation, I like to be academic in my approach. You will know when to use the Lean Canvas. Actually, you just learn. You will learn as well how to differentiate the Lean Canvas from the business model canvas, which is what most people are familiar with. You will understand the 9 quadrants of the Lean Canvas, like all of them, understand exactly what they mean. And you will learn how to fill the canvas for your business idea that you have. Okay. Now, we wouldn't be talking about the Lean Canvas if we weren't proponents of the Lean startup methodology, right? So what's important to know is that business in 2021, not business in the 90s, right? A lot of changes have been made. And I think it's Martin Neumeyer wrote the book, The Brand Flip. At first, we had a product-centric model, but now we have a customer-centric model. So the difference between that is, at first you had the product development model, which was the company creates the product first. So, you guys want to, have an activity, create some revenue for yourselves, you create a product. And then you market that product, and then the product attracts customers. And then the customers pay for that product, and that payment sustains the company. That used to be the old model. But a customer development model is very different in the way that the company does not start with the product. The company first creates the customers. And those customers are involved in building the brand. Those customers are like, you consulte you, they ask you them questions, what are your preferences, etc. And then they build that product for them. And then the brand sustains the company. So the relationship is not with a particular product, it's with the brand. Let's take Apple, for example. Even if Apple starts selling apples, like literal apple, people will buy them. So in other words, it's not because the phone is the best phone. It's not because the tablet is the best tablet. It's the relationship with the brand. It's the brand that is sustaining the company, and not the customers' money that is sustaining it. So that's the difference. I think it's really important for me to talk about that all the time. Being customer centric is the new way of doing business, right? Now, this lean methodology has different steps, 4 steps. Of course, that can be, do we have the results, Ron? Or is the poll still ongoing?
Still ongoing. We have English and doesn't matter.
Okay, so English then. So yeah, so it's 4 steps to the actual building of the company. First, you start with customer discovery. Then you do customer validation. Then you do customer creation. And then you do the company building. So this is the lean startup methodology. You start with understanding the customer, who you're talking to, who you're creating that product for, right? So these 2 steps, the first 2 steps, this is where you're establishing your business model. You don't know yet if it's gonna be profitable. You don't know yet if this is what's gonna lift you out of poverty, but you're testing, you're searching for a business model. Now, when you have reached customer validation, like your customers tell you that, yes, this is it. Not only do I want that product and that service, but I'm also willing to pay that price for it. Then your offer is validated, right? Then your company is like, and then you can invest in actually executing that business model. Then, okay, because I tested it and people want to pay for it, then I can extend that to more people. So this is the customer creation phase, where you create in your market, right? And then you're using marketing and sales to create more demand for it, right? And, because of that execution, you're bringing in some revenue, then you can create the company per se. Now, I want to focus on the customer discovery side, because the first step in customer discovery, like they tell you, what you're trying to do is you're trying to confirm hypothesis in the business plan. So in other words, you need a business plan before you can do the customer discovery. You need to at least have an idea of, okay, this is what I think I can offer. This is what I think these people want, etc. But it says confirm hypothesis. And I think that's the mistake that most entrepreneurs do. Most entrepreneurs make. They think, okay, I have this idea. I have this idea for a product, for a service. I'm just going to start with it. And I know for sure that's what the people need. And I'm just going to go for it. But when you see confirm hypothesis, it's a different approach. What you think you know is exactly that, what you think you know. And then you have to confirm that hypothesis to make sure that, okay, this is actually going to be profitable for me. So this is the first step. So the lean startup methodology is being used by big companies as well. It's not just startups using this. This is a foolproof, or let's say nearly foolproof way of making sure that you succeed at every endeavor that you make. So I can't stress this enough. Don't start with a model. Don't start executing a business model that hasn't been verified yet, that hasn't been validated by your customers yet. So that's the gist of this slide. Now, the lean canvas in itself, what is it? It's very similar to the business model canvas, and I'm going to make the difference. So it is a business modeling tool, and it is a business planning tool, right? So it has 9 quadrants, just like the business model canvas, but some of the quadrants have been replaced. So it's an adaptation of the business model canvas, right? But the difference, one of the main differences, the business model canvas is a strategic planning tool. Like, we're going to plan the whole thing: operation, partnerships, key activities, key resources, everything is planned out. So it's strategic. The lean canvas is a little bit more focused, so it's a little bit more tactical. You can change the lean canvas like in 5 minutes, right? So it's really important to make the difference. So as I said before, the focus is not on the product that you're trying to bring to the table. It's more like, who is the client? What problem are they facing? And what solution are they bringing to the table? Other advantages that it's had is that it's visual. It's very visual, and like usually, just like the business model canvas, it's done with a flip chart and post-its, so you can easily just scribble down, if you're a doctor, scribble down information and just replace them, etc. It's a very interactive way of team building. and creating culture in company. And it's not only for marketers and big VC venture capitalists either, because it uses very simple words. So when you're gonna state the problem, you're gonna use very simple words that is not like jargon or specific business terminology. But that's the advantage that it has. It's universal. Anybody should be able to understand what you write on your lean canvas. So I will start with quadrant 1 because there's an order in which you have to fill it. And my advice to you who are following is, if you have a business idea, if you already had a business idea, you weren't sure about it, or you didn't even know if it was gonna, like, where to start, use this experience, use this exercise to try to write down certain ideas that you have for this particular business. And even your particular business, maybe you already launched something, try to write a lean canvas for it so that you can see how fluid your pitch can be, because it's also a tool that is used for pitches. So quadrant number 1, you start with the customer, because again, we're using the customer-centric approach. So, and the customer segment is what you start with. You start with customer discovery. First, you identify the person who is suffering, the person who has the problem, the person you want to serve. And then you write down hypotheses for them. Like, what are they going through? You may not know unless you talk to them, but before you talk to them, you assume that that person may have this problem. And then you write down those hypotheses, right? And after you write down those hypotheses, you prioritize them. Like, what is the biggest problem that they're facing? What is, like, how old are they? Where can I find them? What is their income like? In what country are they? What language do they speak? I just made that right there. I had an assumption that maybe I should make my presentation in Creole. That was an hypothesis. I did a poll, and then no, English is it is. So that was customer discovery. That was a subtle, stealthy, simple example of how customer discovery is done. Now, the poll may be biased, that happens, and even an interview can be biased. So that's why the second step to customer discovery is doing interviews, but with open questions as much as possible. Don't try to put information in the mouth of the person that you're talking to. Open questions. When the person is not answering a yes or no question, they are more open, and you tend to learn more from them, right? Let's say you give them 2 options and there's a third option. If your question was open, then they will probably mention that third or fourth option. So you end up learning more. So defining your customer segment there's a demographic aspect to it, like who are they, where how old are they, etc. But there's also a psychographical aspect to it, like what do they like, how do they talk, where do they go, do they prefer Instagram or Facebook? So all of this information is what's going to really help you connect with your audience, and that's what's going to help you build something that they want. Because keep in mind, it's not about your product anymore. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't even have a product unless you had an audience, unless you had customers ready for you. So you're really focusing on who are these people, what do they value, what do they like, what problems are they facing on the daily. So you first need to identify them. So on the left side of the slide, what I did is I have prepared a lean canvas for a food truck business. So this is just an example so that, the it's not too theoretical, even though you're working on yours, but I'm also going to give you an example on a food truck business. And that way, maybe you can compare and not be lost. So the customer segment that business owner for the food truck identified was, well, we need people who are going to buy from us during their lunch hour, right? So these are working professionals, right? That's demographic, or students. And also for the rest of the day, because of course we're trying to make as much money as possible, For the rest of the day, maybe park visitors, tourists, event attendees. So the food truck being mobile can be on a park, can go in touristic attractions, can go to events, etc. So it's really important to identify not only the age range, which is the most popular thing I've seen people do. Like I'm serving 18 to 65, but it's not just age, it's who are they, like professionally? What are their income? Where do I find them? Because when you say park visitors, then you know where to find park visitors in parks. So that information already gives you how to market to these people because you know where they are, right? So, and the other important fact about customer segmentation is the term segmentation. All these people need to be very similar. So like it's different segments, of course, that's why it's multiple segments, but one segment is a uniform segment. That's why you can't say I'm gonna market to people 18 to 65 because you're not gonna be able to communicate with them the same way. You're not gonna be able to find them in the same places. Depending on the age, someone might be on Facebook or Instagram or still on MySpace. And depending on their country or their status, their income, the language might be very different. So it's really important to work on that customer segmentation to make sure you get it. Now, the lean canvas also includes the early adopters. So who are these people who are gonna be the first people to test my product and my service? Where am I gonna find them? So he said working professionals, but it's like, okay, so my early adopters are gonna be white collar customers and students that are gonna be at the lunch break. So he already knows, okay, so this is the people I'm gonna go to first. He might have other customer segments along the way, but the early adopters are the first people who are gonna try your product or service. So who am I gonna test this with? Who am I gonna target with that food truck? And also referrals. Referrals are very important for small business, micro enterprises, because it's kind of like that word of mouth. So who's gonna give us more people? So we're gonna have mother groups who are seeking to select the most healthy and convenient option. So these are the people who are gonna refer, like that mother is gonna refer us to that other mother, etc. So you plan all that because your whole business starts with this one quadrant. Before you think about your product, you think about who am I gonna serve, where am I gonna find them, what do they like, etc. Right? So you identify them, you write down hypotheses about them. For example, you can say that like the working professional needs me to be very fast because their lunch hour is typically just 1 hour. Some offices is just 30 minutes. So if I'm not fast, I'm gonna lose that customer, right? So that's an hypothesis that I'm writing down. And maybe when I'm gonna do the interview with that person and I'm gonna ask them, okay, so when you're ordering food, what is the most important thing for you? That's a very open question. The person can answer yes or no. They're gonna be like, I don't know. It has to be very fast because I don't have much time to eat. Then I can verify. I can put a check mark on the hypothesis, like, yes, I was right. But if they tell me, no, I mean, typically it doesn't have to be fast. What I care more about is the taste. Then I can go back to my hypothesis. And remember, I was talking about prioritization. So I can be like, oh, actually, they care more about the taste of the food rather than the speed of cooking, right? So just an example, moving on. But if you're going to remember anything about that slide is that this is the foundation. Your customer segmentation is the foundation for your marketing. It's the foundation for your sales effort. It's the foundation for your R&D, your research and development. Every product that you're going to create needs to satisfy a customer segment. So quadrant number 2 is the problem. So problem in this quadrant, you define what problem are these people facing. So let's say you had different segments, and what is recommended is that if you have different segments, you do a canvas for each of them because the offer is going to be different for each of them as well. So if you have segments, then you need to identify problems that they're facing, but also prioritize the problems. Like it's recommended to just tackle 3. So from 1 to 3 could be just one problem. These people have this problem and I'm going to fix it. But sometimes you can explore and be like, okay, they're facing this problem. They're also facing this problem and a third one. So you write it down. What problems are they facing that I can fix, right? So for example, for the food truck, the problem that the people were facing, like they couldn't find healthy options and convenient options. It's either they have to go to a restaurant or, I mean, it's like there's no best of both worlds, right? So how do they find healthy dining options more conveniently? You can dive a little bit deeper in the problem statement and like literally state it out, like what is it the problem? Why can't they find healthy dining options more convenient? And the fact is that there are no restaurants in walking distance from like where the offices are, right? So the citizens are not able to easily access healthy food options at food trucks. So it's either they can find food trucks, but the food are not healthy, or they can't find food like at all, or they have to wait like a very long time, etc. So this is the problem statement. So this is the problem that they have. So it's also important in the lean canvas, you're stating the problem, to think about the existing alternatives. We tend, as entrepreneurs, whenever we have an idea, like we're all geniuses, we think like this is it and I don't have any competition. Like no one is doing this. But there's always competition. Someone is always doing this. There's always someone doing something, right? And even if it's not an actual competition, an actual competitor, there's always an alternative that your customer segment has put in place to cope with their problems, right? There's always a solution that they created. But for him, for example, the existing alternative is that the people could just take traditional barbecue, or maybe they just go with lunchbox to their office. So prepackaged salads or cold cut sandwiches, like they have alternatives because they have to survive. If the problem, and that part is also important, it helps you validate the problem. Because if it's such a big problem and they don't have alternatives for it, then that means it's not a big problem for them and they're not gonna pay to solve it. So most of the time when you're doing customer discovery and you're asking questions, like you're always trying to see, is it a big problem enough? Is it, because if that's what the problem that you're trying to solve is what's going to bring you money, because the person is going to be an exchange. You solve my problem, I pay you to solve it, right? So if it's such a big problem and like the person who has purchasing power has never come up with an alternative, most of the time that means that the problem is not serious enough and you need to focus on another problem, right? So very important part, existing alternatives. You may not see it on the spot, but think it through, do customer discovery, ask them, what do you do? Right. And one of the things I like to say is like, I don't think I ever do a session without mentioning it, is that there's always competition. Sleep is Netflix competition, because the person can choose, I'm either going to sleep or I'm going to binge on Netflix. And Netflix makes money the more people spend time on it. So sleeping, they consider it as competition. So it's not necessarily another business doing the same thing that you're doing. It's something that the customer is doing that means they're not doing it with you. So you need to figure it out and maybe use that as a way to bait the customer. So that's for quadrant 2 problems. I have something in the chat. I don't know if it's a question. Let me know if I should stick to this slide or if I can keep going.
There is a question.
Yeah, let's go with it. What does it say?
All right, so Kevin said, how about the culture of the people? It's not important in the customer segmentation, or is it important?
Super important. Great question, Kevin. Super important. When you're doing customer segmentation, the more information you have on the person, the better, right? And actually, when you're inside the quadrant of customer segmentation, there's this thing called customer avatars. You're actually building a profile for the customer. You're giving that person a name. you're giving that person a story, you're giving that person a family. You know, he has 2 kids. You know, he doesn't like when the TV's too loud, et cetera, et cetera. You have to know the person as much as possible, because the more you know about the person, the more you know how to create an ad for that person. You know how to, like, the tone to use for your business. Do you want to sound super corporate, like you're a bank? Is that the language that it speaks? Or are you gonna be just casual because, you know, he's more comfortable around casual people? So you need to know about his culture, preference, religion, social, like marital relation. Like, is he married? Does he have kids? The more you know about your customer, the more you can serve them. You need to know the birth date of your customer, and you need to do something about that. And we can talk about customer relationship management in another time. Stick around, like maybe join the pro group. But I mean, that's one of the things that we like repeatedly talk about: customer relationship management, like CRM. There are CRM softwares out there, but what's important is not the software; it's understanding the principle behind it. Why are these big businesses using CRMs, and why are businesses creating offers specifically for one customer? Why does Amazon send me something on my birthday specifically? So this is important. So yes, very important question. Their culture matters a lot. And because like I said, you build in the brand with them. If they can't relate, if culturally they can't relate to your brand, then they'll just go elsewhere. They'll go somewhere where they relate. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but you know, we can keep expounding in the chat or after. But for now, I'm just going to continue with quadrant 3, which is your unique value proposition. Now, the important part, because in the business model canvas as well, there's a unique value proposition quadrant, but it differs in the lean canvas. In the lean canvas, it's not really your solution. In the business model canvas, your value proposition is your offer. So it's what you're selling. It's your product. It's your service. But in the lean canvas, your unique value proposition is your brand. Your unique value proposition is what's going to make the person choose my service instead of my competitor's service. Is it the price? I always advise never to compete on price. Is it my branding? Is it the way I talk? Is it my expertise? Is it what makes me different from the others? And this part is super important. Branding is that big differentiator. Like I said, like Apple versus Android, it's not about quality. It's about branding. So this is the part where you sit down and you say, okay, let's say you're going to sell something that everybody else is selling as well. So you're selling clothes, just an example. Or that food truck, for example. We just said that the food truck the people have access to other food trucks, but the problem is that the food trucks are not healthy. So when that person is thinking, what is my unique value proposition? Unique, emphasis on unique. What can I offer that only I can offer, right? So the focus here is not the product that you're going to sell. It's not like the unique value proposition is not, I'm going to sell salads. It's more like, what's going to differentiate me from the others? So his unique value proposition is, well, it's healthier and faster food, because so far it's either healthy and slow or fast and unhealthy. But his unique value proposition is, hey, I'm going to propose healthier, faster food. And it's talking about our service offers a unique combination of health, convenience, and variety. So we have a proprietary cooking technique. The word proprietary means only I can do it. And that's what business is about. And we'll talk about that like further. And we talk about that all the time in the pro group. Where is your intellectual property? What do you have that no one else can have. What is your high hanging fruit? And when you go to Shark Tank, when you watch Shark Tank, one of the questions that they ask most of the time is, okay, so do you have a patent on this? Is that proprietary? Does this belong to you? What's gonna stop anyone else to just start doing it? So this guy or girl has a proprietary cooking technique. So only I cook like this. So we have locally sourced and organic ingredients, and that is the ideal food truck for individuals who are seeking to save time while living a healthy lifestyle. That's the customer segment right there. In other words, you can't propose the unique value. You can't work on your product or service without having the information of what is the customer, what matters to the customer. So these people who are looking to save time, but at the same time eat healthy, this is who I'm serving, and this is what I'm offering. So the eye level concept is just a short sentence that is like it's kind of a pitch actually, where, for example, you can say YouTube is just Flickr, but with videos. So that's a high level concept because everybody is familiar with Flickr. They know it's a photo bank. So you can just say, like, the person, if you're writing a lean canvas for YouTube, you can say, well, it's just Flickr, but for videos. Then people just get that, right? So the high level concept is an easy way of describing your business idea. Like most of the time, like try to associate it with a brand that's already familiar. Maybe it's Uber, but with money, or et cetera, et cetera. So a healthy fast food that reaches customers on the go via food truck franchise, as well as distribution of branded products and merchandise. So that's for him. And the focus here is the word franchise. It's a food truck franchise. So it's not just one food truck that he wants to have. He also wants a franchise that he can license the brand to, right? And which begs to what I was saying before. In this quadrant, it's all about branding at the end of the day. Your unique value proposition is about branding. And if you don't have a good brand, you can't franchise anything, because who would want to capitalize on a bad brand? So this is the focus on this quadrant. Quadrant number 4 is the solution. The difference between the value proposition that you're offering, which is your branding, that blue slick design, the name that is associated with medicine and etc. But the solution that you're offering is the actual tangible deliverable that you're going to bring to your customer, right? So in the lean method, you don't start by your ideal product. It starts with the MVP, the minimum viable product. You've seen Iron Man. You've seen 3-4 Iron Man movies. The first Iron Man suit was a prototype. It wasn't even colored. So that's your MVP. It's your MVP. That's why I said minimum. It has to be viable, but it has to be minimal. But it's also a product. It also does what it's supposed to be doing. So your MVP is the product that brings you the less risk to create, the greatest possible profitability, and also the minimum features and functionalities that is necessary to execute the offer, the promise that you said. Like, for example, the food truck said, well, I'm going to give you healthy stuff with with organic ingredients, with a proprietary cooking style, etc. If you don't have those minimum things, then you don't have an MVP. If those things cost you so much that you're probably going to be bankrupt in less than 4 months, then it's too risky. This is not an MVP. And if you can create the product, you can offer that healthy experience, but you only making $2 on each meal, then the profitability is too low, then it is not an MVP. So the focus here is to come up with a solution to the problems that we identified in the previous quadrant. We had problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. We have a solution for each. And we always make sure that the solutions are MVPs, meaning they respond to these characters. So the solution that this guy has is, well, I'm going to give you the convenience of a food truck, meaning I can come close to you. You don't have to travel. I can be like on the doorstep of your office. The options are healthy, and you don't have to pay that much. You don't have to go to an upscale restaurant because I'm bringing you that value right there in a food truck, and I'm going to be fast. So I'm bringing you the health. I'm bringing, like I said, the healthier fast food experience. This is the solution that they're offering, and I'm giving you the all that in the convenience of the food truck. So this is your solution. This is the product. This is the service that you're offering. So you write that down and you make sure that it's minimum, right? And then you can reiterate with time, with money, with more revenue. You can reinvest to reinject money in that and improve your product. A company that does not improve their product or iterate on the product is not a company that's survived long. So quadrant 5, channels. And I know it's always about marketing channels, right? Or distribution channels. But I always make sure to say that there's communication channels, marketing channels, distribution channels, but also evaluation channels. Like, how do I talk to these people? How do I know that they like my product? How do I know that the pricing is fair? How do I know that the people are willing to pay that amount of money for the service that I'm offering? I need to evaluate. Let's say I have a product, the distribution channels, like this is the most popular ones. I feel like every business that comes to me, they always have a very good distribution channel in place. Like sometimes they're in supermarkets, sometimes they have delivery with like their distribution channel is always on point. It's in their communication channels. Like, do you email your clients? Do you have an email database? How do you market yourself? How do you evaluate? How do you get feedback from your customers? These are the parts that almost always let down the company. And this is where the focus should be as well. So always keep in mind that in terms of channels, it's not just distribution, but everything else matters. So for him, the organic customer acquisition, like he went that route. There are many other channels that he could have like went for, right? But because we're starting lean, it's always better to spend less in communication, right? So what he does is, well, I'm just gonna go to these business districts where there are many offices, many parks, and many events. So if I can park my food truck in these areas, then for sure I'm gonna get business. I wanna create a social media following. That way people can know when I'm gonna be around. They're gonna know my menu, so they can order even faster, right? So I can also use bloggers and tastemakers to relay the information that I exist, to relay the information that this is the value that I'm creating. And, so these are all communication channels, right? So the social media following, for example, can be a communication as well as an evaluation channel. You can do polls on social media. You can ask questions and read comments and learn a lot from that. So always make sure that whatever the channels that you choose, you can do all these things with them, right? So revenue streams. Revenue streams is, well, you can't survive without money. And one of the first lines I read in the Lean Startup book is that the only prerequisite for company success, is a customer willing to pay. So you need to identify, where am I going to find that money? What are they going to pay me for? How much are they going to pay me for? What payment system am I going to choose? And I keep saying that this is going to make or break your business, depending on the payment systems that you choose. Does the person has to pay cash? Does the person has to travel to your office to pay you? Or can they do that online? Can they use Mocash? Can they use Moneytalks? Like can they use PayPal? Can they use Zelle, Cash App? The easier you make it, the more diverse you are to begin with. And the easier you make it to you make it for people to pay, then the more chances that you're gonna have enough revenues to sustain your business. And you need to also make projections. And the projections, we can go directly to the example that you're gonna see. So the revenue streams, he wants to have 2 food trucks, right, that are currently operating. So these food truck number 1 is bringing in money. Food truck number 2 is bringing in money. By Q4, by quarter 4 of the year, he wants to have 5 new trucks in 5 new cities, right? So that's projections. Like, this is where it's a business plan. This is where I'm gonna be 5 years from now, 2 years from now, next month, etc. So you need to think about that as well. You can't just focus on, okay, so currently I'm making X amount of money, but you need to know, how am I gonna grow this? How am I gonna make more? It's not just increasing prices. Actually, sometimes increasing prices is the worst way of making money. And I do have a session on that, actually, I think on YouTube. Like, is increasing your price the only way to increase your profit? And of course, the answer is no, but of course, you can just watch the video. So this is the part where you're using all the information that you have to project where your business is gonna be. So, and the other thing that I like about him is diversifying his revenue streams. It's not just people are gonna come buy from my food truck at this point. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna launch a tomato sauce brand that can get tested at restaurants. So restaurants are gonna become a customer segment for me as well. So it's not just people at the office and students anymore. It's that restaurants are gonna buy from my tomato sauce brand. Will it succeed? We don't know. Remember, this is a plan an hypothesis that needs to be confirmed through customer discovery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the beauty of business. It's never stopped. It never stops. So quadrant number 7, the cost structure. So you need to the same way you document where all the money is coming from, you need to document where you're spending money as well. So you're definitely research costs. You're doing a lot of research, probably spending a lot of time to prepare your value proposition, to prepare your solution. So research costs, development costs, like what it costs to produce your service, to produce the product, marketing costs, sales costs, and you have fixed costs every month. You have variable costs that fluctuate, and of course salaries. Sometimes you don't pay yourself in the beginning, but sometimes you do, and sometimes you have to pay an accountant, and etc. So all of this are costs. And what's important is that the costs need to be not only lower than the revenue, but you need to plan the profit. And that's why I like what it did for the food truck. He says it out loud. I want to run at a 20% profitability. I never want to go below 20% profit, right? Of all my costs. Because a lot of people think it cost me $10 to make my product, so I'm just going to add 20% on those $10. No, fatal mistake. You won't survive. It's not just developing. It's not just creating the product. It's the research. It's your expertise. It's the tuition, the online course that you took to gain that knowledge. It's the marketing costs. It's the sales costs. It's all of these costs put together, and then you add 20% profitability on it. Electricity, gas. So yeah, so he segments all of them. You can see that he's like, okay, so 35% goes for baseline, like maintenance, gas, salaries, etc. 50% goes for the ingredients and the service, so food, silverware, and napkins, and 15% goes for the marketing. So print ads, social media, promotion, etc. So it's clear in his mind, like where all the money is coming from, where is it, like what is it spending on, and that way you can calculate the return on investment. I know, okay, if I'm doing 50%, I'm spending 50% on marketing, then that means I need to make a lot more. Like those 50% needs to bring me a lot more than 15% of my revenue. So everything is clear. Like, and that's the beauty of the canvas is that they bring like that kind of clarity. So quadrant number 8 is measure. You need to measure. You're not operating in a vacuum. If your business is operating in a vacuum, you're running the business. The business is running you. So you need to establish, what am I going to monitor? What is going to tell me that I'm succeeding, or I'm on the path to attain my goals, or I'm on the path to breaking even or becoming profitable. So you need to identify, what metrics are you measuring? What are your KPIs? We had a session recently on KPIs as well. So these key performance indicators, what are they? What are, like, in my particular business? And another thing I need to say for key metrics is that for every business, it differs. So you can't just go online and look at what Apple is measuring. Or like, even if it's a business that is in your exact industry doing the exact same thing that you're doing, their metrics are going to be different because you have a different strategy and you have a different unique value proposition. You have a different brand. So your metrics needs to be different. So for him, because his promise is that I need to be fast and healthy, one of the key metrics is, okay, how fast do we prepare the food? So, and like we discussed in our KPI session, at first it's just going to be descriptive. Like, okay, we spent 2 minutes for every bun, right? That's just static information. But then that information is going to become like more than just descriptive. And he's going to be able to say, okay, you know what? If we actually reduce that 2 minutes into 1 minute, our profit is going to increase by X%. This is business. You need to be able to measure, to adapt, to change, so that you can become more profitable with time, so that your growth can be exponential. So faster prep time, lower calories, because this, like he said, fast and healthy. So he needs to also measure the amount of calories that is in the food. How competitive is the prices with fast food menus? Because he needs to monitor competition as well, because there's always going to be an alternative. If the prices are not competitive enough, then his customers are just going to go to the fast food menu, and he doesn't want that because he built his whole business around the customer. So losing a customer, and I remember I said that, is the worst experience for a true entrepreneur. A true entrepreneur cares about each and every one of his customers, just like Jesus cares about each and every one of his sheep. If you lose one customer, even if that customer used to only give you $1 every 6 months, you need to feel bad because you are not in the business of losing customers. Popular menu items determined based on customer data. And that's super important. He needs to measure that as well, because he's going to have a menu with, I don't know, let's say 100 options. He needs to monitor, okay, what is selling more? And why is it selling more? And how is he going to do that if he doesn't have evaluation channels from the previous quarter, right? So he needs to be able to always be on top of this. Like, what do my customers prefer? If you're selling 5 things and there's that one thing that's always sold out, maybe you need to look into, creating more similar things, right? And if you have a service that doesn't sell at all, sometimes it's lack of marketing, but sometimes if you use the marketing money for that service, you're wasting money as well. So it's really important to monitor, to measure. Like, there's no business without key metrics and KPIs. And last but not least, this is the hardest one. That's why it's in the last slide. It's your unfair advantage. Your unfair advantage, I know it sounds similar to your unique value proposition, but your unfair advantage is a little bit more important than that. It's what's gonna make me have that business, that product, that service that no one else can have, right? We spoke about that and we said, okay, so it's the brand. But the brand creates an emotional relationship. The brand doesn't deliver the value. The brand doesn't deliver the solution. What delivers the solution is the solution. It's the product and the service. So what are the key ingredients of your product and your service that makes you unique And that makes it hard for people to copy you. What we call barriers to entry. How many people can create a brand pill? What do you have in your business that only you have? Maybe it's key technology. Maybe you have a friend, a developer friend, who wrote this app for you, and it's hard to code. And and maybe someone will figure it out, but like maybe 5 years or 10 years from now, and you would have already recouped all your money. So maybe it's key technology. What other barriers to entry do you have? Do you have a specific location or a specific real estate location that, well, I'm at this crossroads, no one can be at this crossroads at the same time? Is it a specialist knowledge that you paid, I don't know, 7 years? You spent 7 years acquiring. And so what is it that you have, that your business have, that, and very important part, when we say intellectual property, it's for the business, not you. So in other words, does the business depend on you too much? Is it scalable? If you disappear, and I'm never gonna forget that Shark Tank episode, because our very own Creole Essence, castor oil, Real Masquiti, was featured in that episode, and they were pitching their business. At the end of the day, they got a deal. But I remember one of the comments of the Sharks. She was like, I admire you. I think you can accomplish anything you want, but I believe your business depends too much on you. And for this reason, I'm out. So when we say intellectual property, we're talking about, if you have a secret formula, is it scalable? Can you share that secret formula with 2 employees, 100 employees, 200 employees that are gonna help your business grow? Or is it just you who can do it? If it's just you and you're sick, God forbid, then your business is gone. And who's gonna invest in a business that could disappear in one day? So intellectual property is something that you possess, but it's the company that possesses it, not the individual. So for him, his unfair advantage is, well, traditional recipes, yes, but his recipes are proprietary. So he doesn't share, like he's never gonna say, this is how I make my product. They are proprietary, like only I know. The founder, Chef Montana, he's a chef, and he has he studied in Italy, so he is bringing authentic Italian food. Not many people can do that. And the other thing that I have is, well, I have a proven food truck model. So in other words, he did the customer discovery, he did the customer validation, and yes, it's working. So he has this as unfair advantage. And I don't want to rush anybody, because the unfair advantage, like I said, is the hardest part. Sometimes you figure it out years later. So I'm not saying don't start a business unless you figure out what the unfair advantage is. But it's also super important that you think about it. You figure it out along the way when you're serving your customers, when you're thinking, when you're researching, when you're thinking about, okay, what new product should I launch? What you think about, okay, what's gonna help me separate myself from the market? Because forces are against you. Your business environment is against you. So you need to protect yourself. And what protects your business is the unfair advantage, is the barrier to entry. Like, how hard is it for people to just take my customer for themselves? How hard is it for people to replicate what I create? How hard is it? So, etc. So you need to figure that out. And once you have these 9 quadrants, ladies and gentlemen, you have a lean canvas. That'll be all for the presentation. I know it's been tedious a little. Ronald told me we were 1 hour in, but now we can take the feedback and the questions. And so Ronald, you have the mic. You're muted, as per usual.
The most common phrase still in 2021, man.
Yeah.
So thanks, man. Edwin, was there one, I wanted to show an example of what a completed bottle looks like. Oh,
that's an example of a whole.
You don't have it like a full.
No, because it was going to be too small.
Okay, no
That's why
problem.
they print them on big flip charts, and they use Post-its.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to open the floor for questions right now. I'm going to kick it off with a question that I have naturally. And Edwin addressed this in the beginning, but I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs typically forget when we are looking at doing things lean, or even when we're approaching the lean startup methodology or the lean canvas per se. How do I know that I'm actually solving an important problem? Should I be figuring that out before, or is this during the lean canvas, or do I complete this and then afterwards I try to make some things happen to figure that out?
Okay, that's a good question. So the lean canvas is a tool that helps you do that. It's a tool that helps you plan your business. Like I said, it's a one-page business plan. So it helps you think, it helps you figure things out. Now, you're supposed to understand that these are all assumptions. He assumes, I mean, this whole food truck assumes people care about LP living. He assumes people care about speed. He assumes that he can launch 5 different food trucks in 5 different cities. These are all assumptions and hypotheses, right? Mm-hmm. But that's where you start. You start with assumptions. You think, you notice things, you observe, you observe, and that's the. I hear a lot of debate on social about what makes a true entrepreneur, what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman, et cetera. And I think one of the things we miss out on is that an entrepreneur is an identifier of opportunity.
Yeah.
An entrepreneur is looking at life with a lens that it's not just about your business. A true entrepreneur can create a business about almost everything, right? So it's about looking at the world and be like, oh, that's a problem. Yes, that's a problem, but yeah, there's an opportunity there. And that's an exercise I always tell the pro group members to do. Whenever you're being approached, there's an ad that pops up, you get something on your phone, you on Facebook, you see something, ask yourself, what is the business model behind that? How are these people making money? How is WhatsApp making money? How is Instagram making money? There's always a business model, even if it looks like it's free, but someone is paying for it. So these are all hypotheses. You identify a gap, a need, and then you assume that people would pay to solve that problem. So the lean canvas is never an end-all be-all thing, right? It's something that changes, that evolves. That's why they use Post-its. Like you're not erasing. You just remove that Post-it and you replace it with another one. So you don't know. You're assuming. And that's how the lean method is. You start by assumption. You confirm. I mean, first you prioritize the hypothesis. Some are more important than others. And then you have to talk to people. You can't build a company in your room. You can't build a company in your head. You can't even build a company on a lean canvas. You create the canvas and then you go out there and then you verify it. And then you learn and then you edit until you find something that, okay, that has been validated and verified on the field.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part I guess I wanted to draw out too is, make sure people get out of their heads, because a lot of times some of us are antisocial. Some of us think we have the answers. A lot of us are always right in our minds, at least, right? And that becomes an issue when you're trying to build something or you're really trying to prove or find evidence for an assumption, because you're trying to build it all in your head just based off of what you saw or based on what you think people want. And I know a lot of people like that, right? They'll be like, I know this is going to work. I know this is going to work. I'm like, well, how about you just talk to a few people first? You might be right. You very well might have a good hunch. It might be right. And especially sometimes even in an industry that you are familiar with, like, for example, I'm, coming from the higher ed background, and I had a lot of experience and I could make certain assumptions about certain things, but I would always find when you ask questions, you always are missing something that you might not be paying attention to because you're only looking at it from a lens or maybe just looking at things on the surface. Yep. But if you ask questions, you tend to find out, man, I'm glad I asked that question because it's actually helping me strategize a little bit better. My strategy might have been right. My assumption might have been, right on, but marketing to this person might take something else.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, Ron, because even in terms of costs, because if you build a product in your room, no one knows about it, right? You build it in your room, and then you have to go out there and start marketing it to people. That's going to cost money. But if you actually approach people from the beginning, those early adopters that we're talking about, like what we notice is that the early adopters are almost always the people that you've done customer discovery with.
Yeah.
Right. So these are people that you are just asking questions about their needs, their preferences, and then you started building a relationship with them. They know you on a personal basis. And there will become a time where you tell them, well, I'm kind of working on this thing, and they're going to be interested. And they are going to be the ones who are pushing you like, yo, so when is the product coming out? When is that service? When are you going to start offering that service? And these are the people who are going to purchase from you without you having to convince them, because you're literally building the product like tailor-made, like with their measurements, right?
Right. So good, man. So any questions before I continue on? Because I know I could
go all day. I know.
Yeah. Check if there's questions on social media too. We want to make sure we don't leave anybody out there on social media.
Yeah, I know we have people from everywhere. I saw in the registrations, I had people from Taiwan. I also had people from Bahamas.
World famous, man.
Shout out to Taiwan and Bahamas.
Okay, cool. So while everybody else is trying to figure out their question, you can also type it in en question. You can also nous mettre utiliser chat là pour écrire message nous ou question nous, and we'll make sure we get to it. Now, going to the unfair advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people start businesses that are, how can I say that? There's this word that Jeff Bezos used that I was trying to remember. I said I was going to put that in my vocabulary because I like the way he used it. But pretty much they're repeat businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know this lady that has a beauty salon, so I'm going to start a beauty salon too. Everybody has a beauty salon. Everybody's doing hair. I know they make money, so let me go ahead and do it too because I want to make money in the hair industry, right?
Yeah.
Do I have to almost create this unfair advantage when I'm doing like this repeatable business, right? Or something that's just like already trending? Won't I have to go ahead and just create this unfair advantage, or is that something I should be trying to create in the beginning? Or is this something that I should just be going along with the trend or doing what's working? What are your thoughts on that, man? Do I even need to fill out the lean canvas if it's already a model that's working and I'm just kind of replicating it?
Well, Ron, that question is a delicate question. And because the only way I can answer it is it depends on your level of ambition.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on where you want to go. It depends on how many family members are you trying to feed. It depends on how much generational wealth are you trying to build, right? And that's why the people talking about this is people like Jeff Bezos, right? So it's important to not restrict yourself with just, okay, this guy has a coffee brand. I'm going to start a coffee brand and it's just going to be coffee. But there's nothing special. I mean, I'm going to use a different color. I'm going to call it a different name. But at the end of the day, it's just coffee. But there's nothing special really about my coffee. I mean, the only thing special about my coffee is the fact that I think I'm special and that you should buy from me instead of him. But when you really work on the unfair advantage, when you really work on your unique value proposition, you're going to create a brand that is irresistible in the value proposition, in the unique value proposition. But in the unfair advantage, you're going to make sure that where you source your coffee is important. You're gonna make sure that the way you roast the coffee is important. So in other words, you're gonna create a process that is specific. You're gonna create something that is proprietary to you, that only you can do. And when you start marketing, you're not gonna be like, buy my coffee. You're gonna be like, buy my coffee because it's the only coffee that does that, right? So when you have that unfair advantage is when people go crazy over you, is when, oh my God, oh, so yeah, it's not just coffee. It's the coffee that does that, right? And that's the secret. And I always say brandpill, as much as, you know, like this is a democracy, we love working with clients who want to shoot for the sun, the moon, the stars, etc. Like we want entrepreneurs who always want to go to the next level, who are never satisfied with where they are. And that's why we're using these tools that Bezos are using, you know, that like Elon Musk are using, because this is where we want to take brands. So again, feel free to have a business with no unfair advantage. No one is going to kill you. But if you have one, then you have a greater opportunity to create excellence, to create equity. I'm talking very long-term equity, like even generation to generation.
Well, your statement is wrong, man. You said, feel free to have an unfair advantage and nobody will kill you. I mean, they might not kill you, but they'll kill your business.
No, actually, I was saying, feel free to have a business with no unfair advantage if you want, right? But that's not gonna conduce to anything really.
Yeah, man.
I think we have a question in the chat from Kevin.
Okay, let's see. All right, so Kevin says,
it's in Creole. You sure you got this?
We're gonna give it a shot, man. We're live. All right, we'll give it a shot. Full value, good. I'm satisfied. I'm guessing he's letting you know he's satisfied.
We need to do satisfaction post next time.
Definitely. Est-ce que si gen yon élément nan ligne canvas là qui pas bien implémenté, est-ce que ça ka cause problème? Right? Est-ce que tout gen même important ou bien gen qui gen plus importance que l'autre? How's my Creole? How's my reading?
Perfect. I didn't even notice. It was good, just Creole. That was good.
I used to see bad product with good brand and good strategy. People sell this product. LOL. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, man? I've seen that. I think we all seen it.
Super important. Yes, there is a hierarchy. Yes, certain things are more important than others because it's a cascade. Without the customer segmentation, you can't even think about the problem. Without the problem, you can't even think about the solution. Without the solution, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So certain things are more important than others for sure, but do not, for lack of a better term, do not segment the canvas. It's a whole. It is a whole, and it's like cogs, you know, in a clock, like different cogs, different sizes of cogs. As you can see, think about it. Look at the space they leave for problem, which is a long square, a long rectangle. And then the solution is like just a little square. Why do they want me to focus so much on problems if I'm gonna like just have a little solution? Because they want you to focus. Because you're not only do they want you to focus on the solution, but you have to create a solution that can fix as many problems as possible. So it triggers you to really be that entrepreneur, the real definition, the innovator, to find something that isn't there yet. Everybody can resell stuff, but the true entrepreneurship is about creating something that wasn't there before you, right? So yes, there is hierarchy. And if you Google right now, you will find many articles, many answers that says, no, there's no hierarchy. But come on, I believe there's hierarchy. Customer segmentation matters more. Identifying the problem, identifying the solution. If you don't have a good value, a unique value proposition, you might sell if you launch in a book, if I'm doing this session right now, and then you just said that you were satisfied, good. But if I don't have a branding that attracts you, then you just take the value and never think about me again. But the unique value proposition is what's going to make the customer come back for more, right? So the unfair advantage as well. The unfair advantage is like, okay, you're doing this thing, I'm going to do it too, right? But the unfair advantage is that maybe my expertise, maybe my formula, maybe my key partnerships. So having the unfair advantage and the unique value proposition together reinforce the canvas. So to answer your question, because I saw that there's a part where you said, if one of them is not working well, will it affect the business? Of course, it will affect the business. I mean, like I said, there are levels to this. Like, are we thinking Amazon? Are we thinking like Jeff Bezos type of performance? Or are we just reselling coffee? So it's really important to know that regardless of the link canvas that you create, it's going to give you results. Because I've like you said, I've seen businesses, they care about cost, revenue. Is the revenue higher than the cost? And they're comfortable with that, which is fine. But if we're talking about that next level thinking, that let's create a brand for the ages, that let's like become a Fortune 500 company, then yes, all the quadrants need to be on point in order to reach that level.
Definitely. Somebody else had a question? All right, so it is officially 9, man. I know we can keep going, me and you can keep going all day, but I don't want to prolong this session. Yeah. But that's why we have pro groups. This is every Thursday, guys. This one just happened to be live, but we do this every Thursday in secret, like in a cave in the mountains in the back of Haiti.
Oh, and the other thing about the pro group as well is that we have a group chat on WhatsApp. So it's not just Thursdays. We just talk every day about business. Like every other second, there's someone with a problem in their business. How do I do this? How do I do that? I just applied to this job. How do you think I should go about like passing the interview? So there's definitely a lot of value and a lot of camaraderie, I would say. We've gotten closer than I ever thought we would have. Yeah, I mean, it is customer journey all the time for me. I'm still learning. I'm still amazed at the value. I used to underestimate the pro group actually, but to me, it's one of the best ways of really contributing to Haiti currently. So I'm counting on you guys who came to this session, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on inside the Zoom, to talk about it. Share the once the recording is uploaded, share it with your friends. You never know, someone may have been looking for this all their lives, and it's right there at their doorstep. And like I said, tremendous value. I find value in it. I mean, even these concepts that I'm sharing with people that I've known for a while now, but it keeps me sharp and it helps me see different things. So definitely, like the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. So if you're an entrepreneur, it makes sense for you to be in an entourage where you're talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs all the time. So when you do that, your brain, you not only benefit from other people's experiences, but your brain stays on that. Okay, how do I go to the next level? So right. That focus, it keeps that focus, and that's one of the value propositions that we have as well. It's not just learning, but the community that we have.
Yeah, and that's really important that you mentioned that too, man. I think one of the, when we started the Bell Initiative program, I think one of the concerns that we had for our fellows, and that the fellows expressed to me, is that when they go back to Haiti, they're afraid they're not going to have this environment to keep. And I think this is what Pro Group is, right? You have to constantly be in an environment that's going to continue to nurture you, continue to feed you, because what can happen is life can happen. And eventually you stagnate because you're not continuously learning. You're not continuously being around people who are sharing their experiences. You're not learning new things, and you end up, a bit bitter or, confused because you're not understanding why things are not moving. And we're all kind of guilty of that to a degree, right? Or fall into those situations where we feel like we're not moving forward. But it's because we have to continue to put ourselves in places where people can sharpen us, and where we have to admit to ourselves that we don't know everything, and that we can learn from everybody. And I always remember the phrase, even the Bible says that too. So even when you think you know everything, even a fool can teach you something, right? So yep. Never underestimate the power of being around other people, but definitely in a group where people are striving to be better and everybody's striving to do something very similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So for those of you who haven't joined Pro Group, I put the link in the chat. And for people on Facebook, go to brandpill.net, brandpill.net. Click on Pro Group and you can join there. There is a small fee every month just so we can keep things going. It's $35 a month. But if that's too much for you, if you are just a startup or maybe you can't afford to do that right now, feel free to shoot an email to us, info@bellinitiative.com, or they can email you hello@brandpill.net. Did I get the email right?
No, it's actually Help Me Grow.
Oh, Help Me Grow.
But on the website, it's just right there. You just fill in the information and you click send.
Yeah. So
you don't have to remember the email, really.
Help Me Grow at brandpill.net.
Yeah, it's helpmegrow@brandpill.net.
I don't know where I get hello from. Maybe I saw somebody else.
I don't do the hello thing. I'm here for business.
So yeah, but either way, whether you can or can't right now, I need you to go ahead and make sure you go to their website, sign up to register, and join the Pro Group. And even if you are somebody who's experienced as an entrepreneur, we welcome that as well, because we do have some experience and seasoned entrepreneurs there as well. You can serve as somebody who's helping and contributing, but at the same time, know that while you're doing that and while you're being a teacher, you're actually learning yourself. Never forget that. And so we welcome everybody from all walks of life, from all different industries, to come in and join Pro Group. I think you'll benefit from it. I benefit from it. And we have a couple of testimonials that are coming through more recently. One of the ones that I just learned about was one of the young ladies. I'm not gonna say her name because I don't know if she wants to be identified, but she joined Pro Group, always asking questions, and she took a lot of the knowledge that she learned in Pro Group, especially when it comes to marketing, went on a job interview, started, that moment where they asked if you have any questions, and she started asking them questions, and they were looking like, oh, okay. You're hired. We kind of need you. Yeah, so again, it's feeding your brain, learning these terms, learning the different concepts. And when you start talking to people, they'll look at you a little bit differently because they'll be like, you must be in some kind of program or you must really be seasoned. But that's what Pro Group does. And so I do believe that if you are in need of an environment where you can grow and continue to stay sharp, join Pro Group.
Thanks, Ron.
So if we have any other questions, any last questions before we go? All right, well, if we don't have any other questions, for the people who already are in Pro Group, we'll see you next Thursday. If you're not in Pro Group, we'll see you next Thursday because you're going to join, right? And of course, follow the Bell Initiative page at Bell Initiative. We have some great program coming up this summer. We're super excited about it, but definitely we also have Bell Sessions. We're constantly posting content and things out there so you can follow and to kind of help provide you a resource and connect you with things that might be beneficial to you. So thank you all again. Thank you for being here. Edwin, thank you for being a great partner as well. Always you're well on your way to teaching 1 million entrepreneurs. You're almost there, man. You might have already done it.
We're trying. All right, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody for coming out. We'll see you.
All right. Good night.
Night. Ron, you can cut the live feed